What's up, everybody? My name is Rudy Ortiz and I am with Epoxy Swimming Pool Services here in Southern California. We are remodeling a swimming pool and just want to give you a quick brief description on how to go about it. So this is the start of the swimming pool. This is called the acid wash. Basically, we're removing all the grime from the flooring of the swimming pool, the subflooring of the swimming pool, and the walls to make it nice and clean, so we can have a clean surface to work on once we're ready for the initial primer application, which is the first part that goes onto the surface and walls of the swimming pool when you're using epoxy primer and paint. We use Dura epoxy, which is the best in the business, purchased directly from Leslie's Pool Supply. There's only one that can match that, and that's I believe it's Swim Time or Swim in the Swim products, which I don't endorse either one, but those are the only two that I've been able to find on the market that actually make sense. So without further ado, let me show you what acid washing looks like, and then we'll go from there. How many use it? So basically what we're doing is we're dropping the acid with this sunflower pot. And we are washing it out with acid on all the subflooring and everything of the bottom of the foundation of the pool. That's what you need to do to get a clean surface. And then Ryan over here is actually spraying it down, getting rid of all the dirt and all the algae buildup that's been building up over the pool for a long time. You can't really see it coming off, but this is what it looks like. See that yellow mess? That grimy mess? That's going to be the stuff we're getting out. So that's how we acid wash the pool.
After you have initially acid washed the entire swimming pool and removed any leftover algae and or water, you want to make sure that you cover up any holes and or cracks that may have been discovered on the floor surface or the walls. Personally, I use a product called Pool Patch, which you can also find at Leslie's Pool Supply store. It is a thin mixture of cement and other catalytics, which applies directly over the cracks and or the holes of the surface of the pool. Once you apply it, you want to make sure that it dries, which typically takes anywhere between 1 and 2 hours, and then grab a sander along with the 60 grit sanding disc and sand it down so that you have a smooth finished flooring. After you have completed this step, the next step is to let it dry. Typically, after you have acid washed the pool and added the pool patch, you want to make sure that it dries completely, removing all water condensation. This takes anywhere between 2 to 3 days, and then you can apply the epoxy primer.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Rudy with SoCal Epoxy Pools. Just wanted to give you guys a quick, brief introduction to the product that we use when we are using the epoxy pool. Today we are working with the epoxy primer. The epoxy primer is basically this product here. It comes in a box like so, and it's a 2-part catalyst. a roof surface primer, which is this guy right here, and then the Catalyst rough surface epoxy, which is this guy over here. I'll give you guys a more elaborate detail on the product. Not that I'm endorsing it or anything, but this is just a great product to use. So, rough primer, this guy. And typically I use the rough primer, which is different than the actual epoxy primers, just a type of different. They're both the same sales price, but this one will leave your flooring just a little bit rough, not hard rough, but just enough rough to be able to walk around in it, and not rough enough to where it's cutting your feet. But it applies really nice, and it's a two-part epoxy. So I will show you a quick demonstration. And again, this is the product here. So I'm gonna open it up. Get you guys informed with this so you can see what I'm talking about. Basically, so it's a two-part epoxy primer catalyst. It's this guy right here. And when you get the box, you're gonna get that guy and you get this guy. Okay. Both of these guys are open, and you can't use one without the other. So we get this guy here and we pour it into the mix. Again, there are other epoxy products out there on the market, but I don't guarantee that they will all do the same function or will work the same or even be at the same price point. So just careful when you're buying that. When you're using it for the first time and you're purchasing it, because you want to make sure that you use a great quality epoxy pool paint product. So I've used one other one that I think has been similar to this one, or at least matched it, and that is the other brand. I believe it's In the Swim, which is a pretty good paint and primer as well. So this is what we're mixing in, and I'm going to transfer my hand here so I can use my right hand. I'm a right-handed person. So give me a second.
When you're mixing in the epoxy primer with the epoxy, make sure you give it enough time for it to fully dissolve. The way that you can tell that it's ready to go is you simply mix it and watch all the light brown, gray colored epoxy disappear into the white paint epoxy primer. So that's probably the best way to get a clear understanding or to get an idea of when this mixture is complete. You'll see the brown gray epoxy part catalyst disappear into the primer, and you'll have an end result which will look somewhat of a Navajo white clear blend. So make sure that you use a mixing bit that you don't plan on using again. This stuff is really thick, and you will probably not be able to use it again, simply because it leaves a really thick coat. So any drill bits, any tools, anything that actually touches this epoxy primer, as well as the paint, the coating of it is really hard to remove. Hence the Milwaukee driver that I'm using there, all covered in blue. So make sure you are prepared to clean up any surfaces that may run into problems with you dropping or spilling any of this epoxy stuff on it, and or have a towel ready just in case anything drips in places you don't want it to, because it will damage anything it touches, and it will be really hard to remove once it's on there and it's completely dry. Real sticky stuff.
You don't want to make a mess, but yeah. to go ahead and show you the finished product, which is this guy right here. It does come with the handle. I'm just not going to use it today because I'm actually going to pour it on the floor as opposed to rolling it into a tray. So I'm going to put the phone down again, and then I'm going to let you guys see what I'm doing, and hopefully you guys are able to capture that.
In addition to cleaning the surface of the pool prior to adding the epoxy primer, you may want to keep a small vacuum handy so that you can remove any falling tree leaves or any falling debris that happens to blow in with the wind. I always like to keep a vacuum in hand to remove any of that prior to applying the epoxy. Remember that this project is based off of preparation, so the best preparation you can provide, a clean surface on your pool, will give you the best results at the end.
So here's your primer coat, bottom coat to the epoxy. It doesn't dry completely, so you can't really see the base fully, but it's more of a bonder primer than it is just a primer.
So here are a few images of the epoxy primer once it's been added to the subfloor and the walls of the swimming pool. As you can see, it is a thin layer that we add right before we add the epoxy paint. And the reason we add this is because it creates some type of bond with the actual epoxy paint. And I wouldn't recommend you not using one product without the other. A lot of people have asked me, if this epoxy paint is a good product and if it lasts long. And I've heard stories of people saying that they've tried using the epoxy paint and applied it to the surface of their pools, only to have it only last them for about a year and a half before it started getting discolored or before it started to come up. And the reason that that's happening is because you're not using the epoxy primer prior to adding the epoxy paint. You must use both products together in order to get that flawless finish that you're looking for. One without the other is not going to work, or it may look okay for the time being, but trust me when I say this, you want to make sure that you add the epoxy first and then let it dry overnight, and the following day go ahead and add the epoxy paint top coat. That's going to give you the type of finish you're looking for, and that's going to give you a product that's going to be with you for a very long time. It's made to last. I don't know what it is about the primer and the epoxy paint, but they seem to bond together flawlessly, and so I wouldn't recommend using one without the other. Even if the representative at the local pool supply store tells you that you only need epoxy paint, trust me when I say this, make sure that you add the primer prior to the epoxy paint. And I always use both of the same product, which is this one here, the Smart Seal epoxy paint, and pool products purchased directly from Leslie's Pool Supply. But then again, you can also try other products. The only one that I would probably say that I can recommend that I've used before that actually works would be in the Swim, and that's another good product as well. That's similar to this one, but all the others that I've tried using before were good at first, but didn't last very long. So again, make sure you pick up both items when you purchase this product. They both work flawlessly together, and I believe that it'll give you the best results that you're looking for and will last you a very long time. So here's a look at the finished product. This is the Ultra Seal Epoxy paint top coat in the color Blue Haven. That's the color of this particular paint. I believe the product comes in a white, Blue Haven, and I believe the other one is called Ice Blue, which is kind of similar to this one. It's just a bit lighter. So if you're looking for the lighter look, still a nice coat. I've used that one before. That would be the Ice Blue, but this seems to be the more popular one here, the Blue Haven. It also comes in a white, like I said, and I believe it also comes in a black. But most stores will only carry this one here, and also the Ice Blue. I believe you have to order the white and the black online or a special order through the store. But yeah, this is the end result. This is what the pool will look like, the surface of it. We still have to add some tiles here and do a couple of things to finish the swimming pool. But other than that, the flooring and the walls have been restored and repainted. We started with initial concrete, and we added the second part, which was the initial primer, epoxy primer, and we've lastly finished with the final super epoxy Ultra Seal brand epoxy paint. So in the color Blue Haven. If you have any questions or any comments, go ahead and feel free to leave them on the description below. And thank you for watching. And hopefully this helps you get your pool ready.